The world watched as Egypt's people revolted against their president for 18 consecutive days. Their efforts culminated with the resignation of President Hosni Mubarak and the end of his 30-year regime. Now, the military has become the main authority in the country until elections take place 6 months later. Egypt may be one step closer to achieving democracy. But why now has the country decided to revolt against its president? Professor John Antelis, director of the Middle East Studies program in Fordham University, answers this question.
Well, there clearly are a number of new conditions that have not existed in the past that might help explain and answer your question of why now. One is the relative youth of those who have participated and have led this revolution. In a society, and I'm talking about not just Egypt, but all of Arab societies in which age and experience and wisdom supposedly associated with age has always been the justification for being in positions of leadership and so on. So this is a movement that was led by the youth, and that's extremely important. But a youth that's fairly well educated and very savvy, especially with social media and the way they were able to use Twitter, Facebook, access Al Jazeera, use their cell phones, and so on and so forth. So that was also relatively new. So you have the youth, you have the newness, and you also have the world, the whole world observing this phenomenon and sort of making it, this experience, available to the rest of the world. That put a lot of pressure on the governments.
Fordham students also offered their thoughts about the Egyptian revolution and the aftershocks taking place in the Middle East.
I think it's absolutely incredible what they've been able to do over there with how little resources they have. And I think it should serve as an inspiration to us here as it has to people in Tunisia, people in Bahrain, people all over the Middle East who have kind of taken up arms on the internet and in any other way that they can to overcome their own oppressive regimes. I think it should be inspirational to us here who have so many resources available to us that we can actually do something positive for the government or the world as a whole.
Well, Madeline, I think the Egyptian revolution, it's a beautiful thing, and I don't want to rain on anybody's parade. I think it's awesome, what they've done and how they're finally feel like they're getting somewhere politically. But I also think that a lot of times when it comes to revolution with other countries, we think that the only way that this can pan out is positively in the face of democracy. But honestly, you have to think, these governments, they have underground things going on for long periods of time, much longer periods of time than we could possibly imagine. And you have to consider the ways that it could also go wrong. So right now I'm keeping an eye open for, basically the successor to the presidency. We want to make sure that it's not somebody who can be considered a henchman, of basically the past, I'm going to go right ahead and call it a regime.
Right.
So, we wind up in a lot of situations like this where the successor is somebody who is in fact groomed by the previous regime, but, they come off as, charismatic, very progressive in thought, but they've been groomed to be progressive in all the right ways.
While Amanda expressed concerns about the future leaders of Egypt, outside of Fordham, some people envisioned more hope for the country's future.
There's always a negative and a positive. But sometimes the positive outweighs the negatives. My parents are from Haiti, and I live there, and it's the same type of situation, I think. What happens is you go through a country with a lot of turmoil, a lot of chaos, but afterwards it leads to positive things sometimes.
As students and various people weighed in on the Middle Eastern protests, business advocate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. also mentioned that perhaps the United States should follow suit.
I don't have anything particularly profound to say about the revolution in Egypt, except to me it was incredibly exciting to watch it happen and to watch, who would have known that Facebook would become, the most important political weapon of the 21st century. And, the guy who ran Google now, they're talking about him as president of the country, and he has no clue what to do because he was an executive of Google. But he started a revolution, and it really is a democratic revolution, and it was started by, smart kids who had PhDs and master's degrees and college educations and couldn't get jobs because of the corruption in government and, the feudal plutocracy that was running Egypt, and they said, we're not going to take this anymore. We want to run our own government. And, you know, I hope that we can have that kind of revolution in this country, where we really take back control.
I am Madeline Rivera reporting for Ian Fordham and Fordham Nightly News.